The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Monarch Fantasy. They bring 12 for customers. Play just $5. Give $5 bonus funds. Use promo code SGPN. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently Sunday night, September 28th, around 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Rosso Scour Show, once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the 6 matches we've talked about for Monday. We have the Tokyo semis and the Beijing quarters. We're going to do an episode solely for the Tokyo quarters yesterday. Didn't have the time, so I had to scrap it. Apologies there. But we have 6 matchups coming up. Should be fun, and looking forward to breaking them down. Now, before we get into the actual recap of what happened on Sunday and the recap of the lock and dog picks from the last episodes, a reminder that we do have an app now for SGPN. So instead of actually tracking all of the different podcasts on YouTube and Spotify, etc., which can be a bit annoying to keep track of, you can get all of the picks and podcasts in one easy location. Go to the app on the App Store, SGPN app. Once again, free to download on the App Store. Get all of the picks and podcasts there in one easy location. So moving on to the actual, also a reminder, like, subscribe on YouTube, and a reminder, also leave a rating and review on Spotify and Apple. If you do want to avoid the app and you want to just go straight to this channel's content, that's how you can show support. Plus, reminder, check out the merch on the SGPN website. We have a lot of great tennis merch, sweatshirts, we have t-shirts, we have mugs, we have this nice helmet over here you can also get for your, once again, room if you want it. But either way, point is, make sure to go to the merch store. A lot of great content there, so make sure you check it out. I think you'll like the offers that we have for you. So for the recap of the lock and dogs, we had 2 episodes. We had 2 outright episodes, one for Tokyo, one for Beijing. The Tokyo lock and dog picks were really, really bad. For the lock, we had Fritz in straight sets at -135. Did lose to Diallo in the first set. Then he eventually came back and he won in 3. Diallo won 18 of 18 first serve points in the first set. Came out flat for Fritz, but then he woke up and he won. He's actually still playing as he is in the semis, but for our sake did not come through, as he did end up winning in 3. For the dog with Nishioka, money line at +150, got a great price, closed at 120. He had a set point in the first set, didn't get it, lost in straight sets to Darderi, but that closed at +120, didn't work out. So once again, not great. A pretty bad episode, actually, for Tokyo. However, we woke up in Beijing, ended up sweeping that episode. For the lock, we had the Fokina match against Carabelli under 20.5 games at -134. Never in doubt, Fokina killed him. Match flew under. For the dog, we had a nice win, as we ended up having the first set in the Musetti-Perricard match, over 10.5 at +125. Bit lucky, Musetti was serving for the set. He choked and eventually did end up winning the set in a tiebreak. But either way, ended up sweeping the Beijing episode, lost the lock and dog in Tokyo. We broke even, basically ended up chopping. So either way, hopefully you ended up following the Beijing plays, because we did end up winning both of them. Checking the comments section, though. I see Joe mentioning the clown showdown between Zverev and Medvedev. I'll mention that in a few minutes. But for the actual recap of the matchups on a Sunday, overall decent amount of drama. I would say that it was definitely entertaining, and you ended up seeing a little bit of, to be honest, Sunday really wasn't that shocking. You had a couple of outcomes which were surprising, but for the most part, it was pretty straightforward. You saw straight sets in every match besides one. That was a fun 3-setter between Mutet and Zverev. Zverev did win in 3. Medvedev destroying Fokina might have surprised some. I actually thought he would. I didn't do an episode on it, but I thought that he was in good form. I thought Fokina beating Carabelli meant really nothing to me, and I did think that he was going to potentially struggle against Medvedev, and he did. But either way, Medvedev got the job done, as he won in straight sets. Musetti beat Manarino despite the crowd booing him for some comments he made, I'd say earlier in the week, but he got the job done beating Manarino in straight sets. For Tokyo, no drama at all. You saw Rude beat Vukic. You saw Alcaraz beat Nakashima, both in straight sets. Then the upset, you saw Brooksby, who beat Rune in straight sets as a 2-1 dog. Classic Rune loss where he loses to a guy he probably shouldn't lose to, and it feels like he no-shows the entire match, but not too much drama in terms of the actual length of matches. We had a lot more drama in the previous rounds. If you want to include the Tokyo matchups in the quarters, though, you did see Fritz and Korda go to a third set. So that was a bit of drama, but for the most part, not too much to talk about in terms of shockers. I'd say Brooksby being in the semis in Tokyo is kind of shocking. But besides that, really not much else to talk about. You saw Sinner drop a set to Ottman, and then he won 6-0 in the final set. So Alcaraz looked great. I know he got injured early in that match against Baez. He's been fine ever since. He ended up beating Bergs in straight sets in his last match. So Alcaraz and Sinner are still kicking, and we'll see if they can win their events. But for the actual recap of the outrights that we gave out, so for Beijing, we ended up having quarters, but those aren't fully flushed out yet. However, for the first quarter, you have Sinner, who is still alive at minus 550. We didn't bet it, but we did like him only by himself for the first quarter. We have Dimonauer at plus 110, who's still alive. Sheng did lose at 14-1 as a flyer, but Dimonauer is still alive at plus 110. Bublik lost handily in the first match against Manarino. He won a title, came out flat. I'll live with it. It's fine. Bublik ended up not working out for the third quarter. Fourth quarter, we have Medvedev at 3-1, and he's actually favored against Zverev in the quarterfinals. So once again, pretty decent results for us in Beijing so far. We can win 3 out of the 4. Lost Fekina at 4-1, but we took both guys, and we were going to fade Zverev no matter what. So we'll see what happens. Before the actual quarters, not bad. We have a chance to win 3 out of the 4. For the outrights, we have Sinner at minus 148, and we had Bublik at 18-1, who, of course, lost immediately. But Sinner is still alive at minus 148. Now, for Tokyo, we didn't get too creative for it. We had no quarter odds. We have a decent amount of life here. So we lost the long shot with Humbert at 40-1. No regrets there. Took a flyer, didn't work out. However, we do have Alcaraz at minus 160, and we have Fritz at plus 550, and they're both here. So we have a chance to get an actual guaranteed winner in the final if we get Alcaraz and Fritz winning their respective matchups in the semis. Spoiler, they're big favorites. So we'll see what happens. Alcaraz is a massive favorite. Fritz is a decent-sized favorite as well. Might get an auto winner in, once again, Tokyo, and we have Sinner in Beijing. So it could be a good episode for us, going pretty chalky into the outrights. Hopefully that carries over into the 6 matches that we have for, once again, Monday's card. Now, before we get into any of the actual matchups we're going to talk about, actually, you know what? I'll do Tokyo first, actually. Then I'll take a break, then I'll end up doing the Beijing stuff. So for the actual semifinals in Tokyo, we'll start there. For the first matchup, you're looking at Brooksby taking on Fritz. For this one, Fritz is minus 375. You have Brooksby at around plus 300. For the spread, minus 4.5 for Fritz, plus 4.5 for Brooksby. You can get 3.5, though, on Fritz at minus 150. For the over-under, I see minus 120 at 21.5. The under is even money. For the set spread, you have Fritz in straight sets at minus 130. Brooksby to win a set is even money. The over 2.5 sets is a plus 167. Now, you're looking at Fritz, who's been a bit vulnerable by making it to the semis because he ended up dropping a set to Korda in the quarters and dropped a set against Diallo in the first round. Did beat Borges 7-6, 7-5, or 7-5, 7-6, I mean, in the middle round. So not exactly a dominant showing by Fritz so far in Tokyo, but he's still here, so can't complain. As for Brooksby, he looked great against Rune, and he looked great against Darderi, and he looked great against Humbert. He has not dropped a set yet. Now, for the head-to-head, I will point out that Fritz has beaten him before this year, beat him in Eastbourne in straight sets, and beat him in the Australian Open in straight sets, and beat him in the U.S. Open 2021. Lost in the U.S. Open 2021 in 4. So the 2 recent meetings, Fritz kind of killed him. Eastbourne final was very lopsided, 7-5, 6-1, and in the Australian Open, it was very ugly, as Fritz did end up winning in straight sets. Point is, Fritz has been vulnerable, but he's still better than Brooksby in general. So the question is, will Brooksby do enough to keep this match close? I'm going to say yes. I think 4.5 is a lot of games. I know Korda is you could argue, better player than Brooksby. I think they're similar stylistically, and the fact is Fritz did end up winning, but it was close on the scoreboard. It went to 3 sets, ended up seeing Korda win a set in the match, so I'm not going to picture Fritz coasting to a nice, easy win here. I think he will win, but the fact is we ended up seeing a breaker, and Korda won it. I think you're looking at Fritz, who maybe can showcase good returning against Brooksby's weak serve. But in reality, I think Brooksby's playing great tennis. He looks comfortable here on the courts, and Fritz has really not. Borges covered the spread. Korda did not cover the spread. It's by going to a third set. And the first round, he ended up going to a third set against Diallo. I think the 4.5 makes sense for Brooksby. I like it at minus 135. I like the over. I think a tiebreak's reasonable in this one, but I think you're looking at what could be a pretty competitive matchup, at least early on. Think Fritz will win. I like the team total at 12.5. I like the over minus 135. Give me Fritz in what could be straight sets, but I do think there'll be at least one close set. Give me the team total over for Fritz at 12.5 minus 135. Don't mind Brooksby team. I don't mind the Brooksby spread though, plus 4.5 at minus 135 as well. Moving on to the other matchup. This one's the most lopsided one in Tokyo. You have Ruud taking on Alcaraz. Alcaraz minus 900. Ruud is plus 613. For the spread, minus 4.5 for Alcaraz, plus 4.5 for Ruud. For the over-under, 20.5. The over is plus 100, and the under is minus 120. For the set spread, you have Alcaraz straight sets at minus 240. Ruud to win a set is a plus 181. The over 2.5 sets is plus 254. For the path of both players, Alcaraz has been quite good. Had a scare with an injury against Baez, but he's really been coasting. In the Laver Cup, he ended up losing to Fritz, ended up, of course, winning the U.S. Open, beat Cerundolo in the second match there in the Laver Cup, beat Baez, beat Bergs, and beat Nakashima, all in straight sets, really never in doubt. Now, for Ruud, he's been good too. Dropped a set to Mochizuki. Since then, he's won 6 straight sets, beat Mochizuki in 3, beat Berrettini in straight sets, and beat Vukic in straight sets. Good servers, however, a very, very weak path for Ruud. You could argue it's fraudulent. I would agree with you. There's no argument here. Beating Vukic in the, once again, quarters is the draw that you dream of. And Berrettini did win a match against Munar, coming back off injury. Not going to read too much into it. I think Alcaraz kills him, simply put. Now, a reminder, it's a rematch of the U.S. Open final from a couple of years ago. But you're looking at the recent meetings. Faced off last year in the ATP finals, Ruud actually did win in straight sets. Kind of a shocking upset there. But for the other matchups here, you're looking at Alcaraz, who beat him in Beijing 2 years ago in straight sets. World Tennis Championships in 2022. Ruud did beat him on hard court. Alcaraz won the U.S. Open title against him in 2022, beat him in Miami in straight sets. And the point is, I think Alcaraz is playing tennis that's just too high level for Ruud. Ruud, once again, has been playing well against weak competition, but in reality, I think Alcaraz probably coasts. The question is, will Ruud force a competitive set, or will he get curb stomped? And to be honest, I think I'm going curb stomping for this one. I think Alcaraz will coast. I think there'll be one lopsided set. Ruud hasn't beaten anybody, and Alcaraz, I know, hasn't really beaten anybody either, but Nakashima can serve well. He broke him multiple times. You're looking at a spot where Alcaraz is right now number 1 in the world for a reason, and we know Ruud is more of a clay guy. I think Alcaraz dominates. I think 4.5 games makes sense. Thought about the under. You might end up seeing one competitive set, but you could get a 7-5, 6-2, for example, and you end up getting the under as that line's 20. I'll go for the under. Give me Ruud team total under for this one. I think Ruud will get pretty, I'd say, handily beaten for this one. Just backing blindly the form of Alcaraz, picking him to pick up where he left off, and once again, keeping his straight set streak intact. Now, I'm looking at the actual pricing for the games here. I see Ruud under 8.5 minus 122. I like it. My favorite play on the match here. Give me Ruud team total under 8.5 as my thoughts for this one. Going to wrap it up, though, for Tokyo before we get into the Beijing quarters. Reminder, brought to you by our sponsor, which is MyBookie.ag. See them to bet on football. They have prop builder, second to none. Their motto simple: bet anything, anywhere, anytime. You can use crypto for deposit payouts. You can sign up for your new account. Use code SGPN for 100% bet back bonus $500 for new customers. MyBookie.ag promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Novig, America's #1 sports futures market. Since Novig's an exchange, you're getting some great prices available in 30+ states. Download the app, get $50 when you spend $5. If you use promo code SGPN when you sign up for your new account. So once again, get on the actual Novig, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Scam Podcast. Finished going through the semis in Tokyo. Time to move on into the quarters in Beijing. So for this one, starting off with the first match on the card, you have de Minaur taking on Mensik. Now, for this one, de Minaur is decent favorite, about minus 220, give or take. Mensik's around plus 180. For the spread, minus 3.5 for de Minaur, plus 3.5 for Mensik. The over-under is at 22.5. Set spread, de Minaur straight sets is plus 113. Mensik plus 1.5 sets is minus 145. The over 2.5 sets is plus 143. So for the meetings, historically speaking, very lopsided. de Minaur's beaten him twice this season in straight sets, really never even a sweat. The face-off in Vienna last year, de Minaur did win in 3. That one was close. 2 meetings though this year, face-off last week in the Laver Cup. Very slow-paced hard courts, but de Minaur did beat him 6-3, 6-4. Face-off in Rotterdam last year, and that was also lopsided. De Minaur won in straight sets, and he also won 6-4, 6-4. So Mensik has not been serving that well in the event. He's been winning, but he has been broken at least 3 times by both Kekmanovic and Kaza. So he hasn't broken more than you might think. Now, the path, once again, is not bad, not amazing with Kekmanovic and Kaza. De Minaur, we saw look great in the Laver Cup, beating Mensik, beating Zverev. He was really in great form. Then he showed up here, beat Bu. Rinderknecht was close, though. That did go to a third set. He was serving very, very well, to be fair. He won 77% of his first serve points, and he had 11 aces. He served at 72%, though, which is insanely high, and de Minaur still found a way to get the job done. I think it's a bad matchup for Mensik. Mensik, we know, is a young player, very young, a lot of firepower, but mentally he can be a bit, I'd say, untrustworthy at times. De Minaur, we know, can force errors. He will force you to play the extra ball, and we know Mensik's shot selection and variety can be underwhelming at times, and the second serve can be weak as well. Think de Minaur will make it difficult for him. Think he beats Mensik for the 3rd time this year in straight sets. I like de Minaur for the value. -1.5 sets at +113. Like the plus money price for a guy who's only other guy historically being 3-0 in the head-to-head. Moving on to the next matchup, we have a why bother match between Sinner and Morozin. Sinner -2,000. Morozin's around 10-1. Spreads -5.5 for Sinner. It is +5.5 for Morozin. The over/under is at around 19.5. Or 18.5 shop around 19.5. The over is +128. For the set spread, Sinner straight sets is -500. Morozin to win a set's +340. And team totals, you have 6.5 for Morozin, and you have 12.5 -200 on the under for Sinner. So for the head-to-head history, been surprisingly close, actually. So Sinner, for the record, has not actually lost to Morozin, but, he did. He lost to Morozin in a future event in 2018. Not going to use it. It was 7 years ago. Toss it out. Now, last year in Halle, they played against each other on grass, and Sinner did win, but it went to 3 sets. So we'll see if Morozin can make it interesting for even a little while, like Ottmane did, as he won a set, then got buried. No, so for this matchup, for the path, Sinner killed Cilic, ended up beating Ottmane 6-0 in the 3rd set. For Morozin, beat Bonzi in straight sets and beat Mueller in straight sets. Not going to lie, pretty weak draw for once again, Morozin. I know Bonzi was in okay form in the U.S. Open, but besides that, though, he's really not been playing great this year. And you're looking at Mueller, who kind of peaked earlier this season, hasn't done much late, and he was able to win that one in straight sets. Not a great serve either, so Morozin was able to kind of pick it apart and find some breaks. Sinner, I think, is a bad matchup for him. Morozin, at the end of the day, has a really awful second serve. So if the first serve's not falling, I think he's dead to rights. And Sinner was able to break Ottmane constantly in the, once again, last matchup. I think you're looking at a pretty similar story where Sinner is able to coast. I think unlike the match against Ottmane, I think he keeps his foot on the gas pedal. I think Morozin's second serve lets him down. I think Sinner serves better. That was the surprising part. He got broken 3 times into the second set. That really never happens to Sinner. So I think Sinner responds. I think he wins comfortably. I think it's probably going to be ugly. So if you want to go for Morozin, maybe you can go team total under 6.5, but even that's pretty expensive, or at least pretty tough to actually get. I'll go with it, though. I think Sinner wins 6-3, 6-2. I see it being pretty lopsided once again, so not much value on the match at all. But if you're asking my picks, I'm taking Sinner in straight sets. That's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, I got nothing else. Give me Sinner in a rout for this one. Moving on to the next matchup, you have Musetti taking on Tien. And for this one, Musetti -230. Tien is +190. For the spread, -3.5 for Musetti, +3.5 for Tien. The over-unders at 21.5. Set spread Musetti in straight sets is around +113. Tien to win a set is -145. The over 2.5 sets is +153. Now, for the path so far, Musetti, we know, lost the heartbreaker to Tabilo in Chengdu over the past week. Showed up here. He's been good. Beat Perricard in 3 sets. Beat Manarino in straight sets for Tien. ended up beating Caboli in straight sets and beat Cerundolo in 3 sets. In other words, good for Tien. Nice wins. Caboli can be dangerous. We know Cerundolo can be too. And Tien wore them down. Nice job by him. Now, for Musetti, we know that he's been playing great tennis, made an ATP final last week. But do I think he should be laying 230? I get it. Do I want to take it at 230? I do not. Give me Tien for a potential underdog play. Think he might be live, actually, to win. So I kind of ignored the actual stats when I looked it up for that Musetti preview against Tabilo on Tennis Abstract. He's really not that great against lefties. And I want to mention his numbers against lefties because they're surprisingly underwhelming. So for the actual matchups recently against lefties, you're looking at Musetti, who is actually 1-3 in his last 4 matches against lefties. The one win was against Manarino in the round of 16. So he had lost 3 in a row, and I think Tien can make it difficult on him. Tien looked great against Caboli. I think he can return well. We know Musetti does love to stand on the baseline and rally. So does Tien. I think this could get dicey. I think that Musetti's proven, and I was hoping that his form would carry him against Tabilo, and it should have, but he's 1-3 in his last 4 against lefties. I think Tien's intriguing at plus 3.5 here. I think you'd argue a team total for Musetti is interesting. Maybe an over 2.5 sets at plus 153. I think it makes sense. Give me Tien to keep this interesting. I think Musetti might end up winning the matchup, but his numbers against lefties are not good. And I think that Tien has proven against Cerundolo and against Caboli. Watch out. Like, he's dangerous. Keep an eye out for Tien. And I think he can get the job done. Give me the over in that one. Don't mind the 2.5 sets, though, at plus 153. If not, the games are 21.5. I like the over for that anyway. Thinking we might end up seeing a war in that one, but I think Tien might be a bit more alive than people think. Moving on to the next matchup. You're looking at a matchup between, this is the last one. It was Zverev against Medvedev, saving the best for last. Medvedev is favored in this one at minus 140. Zverev's around plus 122. For the spread, minus a half a game for Medvedev, plus half a game for Zverev. That's at even money, by the way. The over-unders are 22.5 games. You're looking at the set spread. You have Zverev to win in straight sets at around plus 250. Medvedev to win in straight sets is plus 180. The over 2.5 sets is at plus 136. Now, Joe mentioned it before. It is the clown showdown between two guys you really can't trust at all, despite being top 10, top 5 guys when they're on. The problem is they can lose to anybody. Now, for the path so far, Zverev showed up from the Laver Cup with an injury. He looked good against Sonego in the first match and had a marathon against Mutet in the round of 16. For Medvedev, he's been great. Beat Nori in straight sets and beat Fekina in straight sets. Pretty handily, actually. So you're looking at Medvedev being in better form, which is why he's favored. Am I surprised he's favored? A little bit. I think based on ranking and based on Medvedev's tournament results for the last couple of years, I'm a bit surprised he's favored. Then you remember that Medvedev owns the head-to-head against Zverev. So for the actual head-to-head numbers recently, it has been one-way traffic. Medvedev is 8-1 straight up in the last 9 against Zverev. 8-1. Beat him on grass earlier this year. So you're looking at Medvedev, who has been good historically against Zverev, a bad matchup for him. Think that's why he's favored. And I think that's why I would pick Medvedev in this matchup. I think watching him play a couple of times, the new coaching staff seems to make him look more aggressive. He has been getting broken a bit, but Zverev we know is very passive. We know Medvedev can rally as well. But Zverev just never pulls the damn trigger, and it gets really frustrating. Mutet took him to 3 sets with a pretty similar game plan. I know he throws in more drop shots, etc., and variety, but the point is he made Zverev work for it, and there's no day off. So going back-to-back days against Mutet and against Medvedev is not a great proposition when you are off an injury in the Laver Cup and you're off a 3-setter once again. So I'll go Medvedev in this one. I think he'll keep the dominance going. Once again, 8-1 in the last 9 head-to-head meetings. I can't go against that. Give me Medvedev in this one at around minus 140. I do love the over, though. I think you'll see a close matchup. We've seen a lot of drama between them, and I think you're looking at what could be a very close battle. But I will pick Medvedev to once again outlast Zverev in what could be a 3-set marathon that does actually live up to the hype. It's going to wrap it up, though, for the quarterfinals. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. Before we get into the lock and dog, a reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, which is on Fantasy. Play Fantasy Pick'em with the platform with 500 times your entry, pick higher or lower on your favorite player stats, available for a ton of different sports. New offer, though, for new customers, play just $5, get $100 bonus funds. Use promo code MLB SGPN. We're also brought to by Rhythm. A reminder that they are off to a great start in college football and the NFL, using the bet on different sports. They have college football, the NFL, WNBA. They have MLB, a lot of options there, but they have a leaderboard with league cash prizes for tracking your bets in the platform. Track 5 bets of the same type for any model that you build, and you can win $1K. And they have a promo code with us for a discount. Use the code SGPN25 to get a quarter off your first month when download the Rhythm app. Once again, download Rhythm, code SGPN25 for a quarter off your first month. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Scam Podcast. Finished going through the previews of the Tokyo semis and the Beijing quarters. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. So for the lock, I'm going to go with a team total for a head-to-head series that's been very one-sided, and yet he always goes over this damn number. I'm going to violate my general rule, avoiding Medvedev. We actually took this in the grass season, and it won. Medvedev team total over 12.5 at -124. Couple ways to get there. Medvedev wins and there was a close set, or maybe he ends up winning in 3, or he loses in 3. Point is, these guys tend to have some competitive battles, despite Medvedev winning all the time. And I do think this number is pretty cheap. Now, Medvedev has gone over this number in 7 of his last 9 matches against Zverev, and he's 8-1 during that span. So Medvedev has been very, very good against Zverev. And I do think that you might end up seeing one close set, especially with the history, because there has been a 7-5 or a 7-6 set in 8 of the last 10 meetings. So I mentioned before, Medvedev is at -140. He's about -400 and change to win a set, -500 or so. And he has gone over this number in 7 of the last 9 meetings against Zverev. I think 12.5 can get there in a couple ways. Once again, he can win or lose competitively. think he'll win at least one set. Maybe you get one close one, and we'll go from there. But I like the value. When this prop is cashed in 8 of the last 9, when this prop is cashed in 7 of the last 9 head-to-head meetings, and there's been a 7-5 or 7-6 in 8 of the last 10, checking a lot of boxes for the lock. Give me the Medvedev team total over 12.5 is my lock for the show. For my dog, I'm going to go Dimonauer straight sets at +113. He's been great against Mensik. He's won all 3 meetings pretty decisively the last 2, which were the only 2 from this year. And you're looking at Mensik, who has not been serving that well, got broken 3 times against Kaza and 3 times against Kekmanovic. He needs to serve well. Fact is, Dimonauer is an unbelievable returner, a top 5 returner in the world. And we know Mensik's shot selection and rally tolerance is not great. Think it's a bad matchup for him. I will go with Dimonauer in straight sets as my dog for the show. So once again, the lock and dog's going to be on Medvedev to go over the team total at 12.5 at -124 as the lock. So Medvedev team total over 12.5 -124 is the lock. For the dog, give me Dimonauer straight sets at +113 against Mensik. So to wrap it up for the show, back once again for the final in Tokyo and the semis in Beijing. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.